I think it's very easy to spot water injustice, because indeed that impinges on human dignity. It prevents people from living a healthy and profitable life, and it's readily measurable. There are other forms of injustice which are more obscured, but nonetheless they will certainly affect individuals, economies, people's access to resources, energy, food, and so on. Well, clearly the most obvious and overt example is that of the situation of the Palestinians. And I've been working to look at transboundary wastewater management, and a particularly important factor in that is that, of course, if you export wastewater, you are actually exporting a waste, a potential waste, and water. So the whole issue of recovering that water is very important, and how does the originator, the sender of the wastewater, get compensated for that? And wastewater recycling is hugely important to the water balance in Palestine and Israel. And of course, it calls for some form of justice, because if it is your water and you give it away, you need to be compensated for the water that's sent. So that's a very overt example. A less obvious example could be related to the effects of using water for sugar production. Exporting the sugar, and sugar takes a very large water demand, and the price of sugar is not necessarily controlled by the people who grow it, and therefore a country may decide to put more and more water onto sugar. It will get less and less money in return, and as a whole its population will suffer because there's less water available from the national water balance to put to other, perhaps more productive uses. So it comes in a range of different forms, and it's to my way of thinking, you cannot look for justice purely by considering what we currently consider as the hydrological cycle. You must include in that issues like recycling and virtual water. Otherwise, you never cast a net broad enough to actually begin to address what justice is. And I believe that the water is highly linked to the production of food and the production of energy. And there are numerous powers at work in relation to acquiring not only the raw resources to produce food and to produce energy, such as land and oil, but also the intimate linkage to the water necessary to complete the production, and then perhaps its eventual export out of the area where it was initially produced. So what forms of power are operating there? Well, clearly economy, geopolitics, and whereas perhaps traditionally we would think that this power is exerted between one state and another, there is in fact a whole other layer of players who are major corporations, companies interested in exploiting the oil, individuals within countries who broker deals, and so on. So it's not purely a question, the transboundary justice element there and the power element of it is not simply a question of the relationship between a state and another state, because there are powers which also operate outside of that particular scope.